Hello, this is video 33. And finally, we're there. Our language that we're going to be writing our software in. Oh, excuse me. I should have been more specific. Our high-level language. We're not going to write a machine language. We'll have to use machine language. We'll have to translate into machine language. What am I talking about? See the previous video. Our language is Python. Python. Where they came up with the name, I'm not sure. But that's it. That's the name. Our IDE. Fortunately, you've watched and digested the two intro videos leading up to Python, and you know exactly what an IDE is, or not. An integrated development environment, our shopping mall of all the system program tools that we need to put together a whole program and run it. Ours is IDLE, I-D-L-E. IDE is an acronym that means Integrated Development Environment. IDLE is actually kind of a joke. If you've watched any of the old Monty Python movies, one of the stars of Monty Python was Eric Idle. See what they did there? I'm not the only one that makes bad jokes. People who invent Python and tools to go with Python, they make jokes too, so it's not all my fault. Python syntax. Line for this. Python. P-Y-T-H-O-N. Syntax. S-Y-N-T-A-X. What is syntax? Is that the fee you got to pay when you win something out at Keeneland? Well, maybe, but it's spelled differently. Python syntax, this is the rules of the language. It has grammar rules just like English grammar. Rules of the language. Now, English is somewhat forgiving. If you mess up English, you use bad grammar, whatever, then someone might make a sour face at you, but they probably still know what you mean. The computer, bless its heart, it doesn't know how to make sour faces. So if you don't say exactly what you mean in Python statements, the computer is not going to have a clue. It's not even going to try. It's not going to do what you mean. You've got to tell it exactly in its own language what to do. Here is, now that I've scared you into paying attention, here is what I'll call a skeleton, if I can spell that, S-K-E-L-E-T-O-N. Skeleton of a Python program. It's not complete enough even to be called an outline because there's so much more to it. But you know what? I'll change colors for actual Python syntax and hope that I get a marker the first time that actually writes. I think purple is okay. Def, D-E-F, all lowercase. Well, it looks better if I make it a capital D. You know what? Knock yourself out. Python is what we in the biz call case sensitive. DEF is a completely different word, different token, different symbol than if we use a capital D or a capital E or a capital F, anything like that. So if you don't spell it exactly like this, Python's not going to know what you're saying. See what I mean? It takes everything extremely literally. Also in all lowercase, main, M-A-I-N, and then it has to have empty parentheses after it for reasons that we probably won't know until close to the end of the whole term. But just take my word for it. We've got to have that, and then we've got to have a colon. So here we go. We've got to have def, at least one space. If you're looking for some place to express your creativity, I guess you could put two spaces here instead of one, and it would still work. So you could do that. DEF space, at least one space. Main, M-A-I-N, all lowercase, empty parentheses, colon. And then, you know what, I'll use a different color for directions that are not things you actually type in. That pesky green marker. I'm going to draw a line here. Python is really big on proper indentation. If you don't indent things the way Python expects them to, that's almost like typing in the wrong words, misspelling words, or typing in the wrong instructions. So we've got to indent, and I'll even put the word here, indent. You know, there's already so much to remember. Nuh-uh. If you're in the IDLE IDE using the editor, then when you type in def space main, empty parentheses, colon, press enter, it's going to automatically indent for you. That's what editors are going to try to do. That's what I meant. They're going to They're going to try to help you, help yourself as you type in your Python program. What do I type in? I'm going to put my own conventional symbol here. You don't type in less than sign. Let me write this. Indented Python statements. I-N-D-E-N-T-E-D. Python, P-Y-T-H-O-N. Statements. I'm going to be writing statement on the board so much. I'm going to go ahead and break the seal on the abbreviation. STMTS. That says indented Python statements. What does it mean that I've got a less than sign here and a greater than sign there? Well, I call these pointy brackets. This is a format token, meaning you don't literally type in less than I-N-D-E-N-T-E-D. It means when you do have some Python statements, when I finally stop being so long-winded and we get to some actual statements that we could type in, then that's what would go here. Those would be indented. So anytime you see these pointy brackets like this, that means this is a token, a format token, that's got to be replaced before Pinocchio turns into a real boy, before you actually have a Python program. So this will actually be replaced. How many times can I say that? I'm not going to say it anymore. Now then, here's another token. After you've got all your Python statements that you want in your program, then unindented back here, well, I guess you can't tell if it's unindented because it'll be a blank line. Do you type in the words blank and line inside pointy brackets? No! You leave a blank line after the indented statements, and then down at the bottom you put main with parentheses and no colon. All of this, ladies and gentlemen, is required for every single Go Python program we will write in this class. Actually, every Python program you write the rest of your life has to fit this pattern. What are we doing here? Well, in more or less layman's terms, def means define. I hereby define what my main program should be doing. How do I define what the main program should do? I list all the lines, set x to 5, add 3 to x, all that other kind of stuff. All that goes over here in the indented part. When I'm done, then after the very last line of the program, I leave a blank line. And then this says, this is the weirdest looking part maybe, I've already got main up here. This is just making a mental note to the CPU, not to the CPU, it's putting it in memory and saying, here beginneth the main program. Here's all the text of the main program. This, strangely, way down at the bottom, this tells the CPU, says, okay, you've seen it, now go do it. Really, that's what it's saying. So here, you're just saying what the main program will do when it runs. This says, now go back and run it. And you might think, well, that's just ridiculous. I'm not going to put that in there. Then it's not going to do anything. If all you do is def main, empty parentheses, indented statements, blank line, and then you leave off main, then it's not going to complain. It won't give you any error messages. It just won't do anything at all. It's all the program. Maybe it liked it. Maybe it didn't. Who knows? Because if you don't run it, see how you've got to follow every single little rule so very literally? And this has to be unindented. It's not indented with the rest of your program. Picky, 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 picky. Now, strange as it may seem, I left enough room down here in my purple color to have a whole program example. Here's our very first complete Python program. Whole Python program. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. I can hardly contain myself here. Could hardly write a whole Python program. It's got to have that. Def main empty parentheses. Def space main empty parentheses colon. So far so good. Indented statements. I don't know any statements. Well, there's a print. I'm going to have to put this in air quotes. There's a print statement. I'm going to indent, and it's the word print, P-R-I-N-T. And then in parentheses, you just put in actual quotes, not air quotes, what you want to see printed on the screen. Let's say, I don't know, greetings from Python. Python's talking to us. Greetings from Python, exclamation point, close double quotes, close parentheses. And that's enough. So I'll leave a blank line. I'll put a bracket over here. That's not a bracket that's typed in. I'll put that in a different color. I'll put that in green. We don't type in a bracket. I'm doing that to indicate that we leave a blank line after a print statement. Now, when that's loaded, all of this is in memory, and the computer's ready to run it. We tell it to run it by putting main. See, I just barely had room down here. Main with parentheses and no colon. Colon means I'm going to define that for you. Here it comes. Def main colon after the parentheses. There are the statements. Print, greeting from Python, and then main. We run this, it'll say greeting from Python on the screen without the quotes. Things enclosed in quotes, we'll see those a lot. Those are called strings. Not strings like on a kite, but sequences of characters. A string is a sequence of characters. What's a character? A character, you could think of that as what you get by picking on the keyboard one time. Lowercase a, that's a character. The exclamation point, that's a character. The space bar is even a character. That takes up space in memory. It has a zeros and ones bit pattern that represents the space. So really just about any, well, the shift, I have to take back that a little bit. There are some exceptions. Shift doesn't have, bless its heart, it doesn't have its very own character representation. All it does is modify which character goes into the string. So if I press Shift and then hit G, then capital G is a character in my string. Good grief, I'm belaboring this to death, am I not? But anyway, it's going to print out greetings from Python without the quotes. And why did I back off or hesitate a little bit when I said, well, in Python statement, put air quotes around that. We are already, believe it or not, requiring the use of a library, the input-output library. This, print, that is not a statement like add 2 plus 2. That's not a Python statement in the traditional sense. This actually goes over and runs the print mini program inside the input-output library. So the linker had a non-trivial job to do here. It had to connect this statement with the print mini program over in the library, otherwise we wouldn't be able to see this. But look how seamlessly it blended into our first ever Python program, which I'll put a big bracket over here. That is a complete program. How do we know? How do we know that'll actually run? Well, we slap it on the machine and run her through the IDE and see if it spits out what we want it to spit out. How are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to do the next video as a screen capture and do a demo. And we'll just go from 0 to infinity, and before you know it, it'll be saying greetings from Python on the screen to us, our very first Python program. Won't that be exciting? And I'll talk to you about it later. See you online.